Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world for technology startups. We run this out of Silicon Valley, but really with a global footprint. So we've been doing this for a very long time. We started back in 2008 with these free public roundtables where we did mentoring. And the mission of 1 million by 1 million actually came together after that experiment kind of was successful, that we could do online mentoring globally. And then in 2010, we launched 1 million by 1 million with the mission of helping 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue globally and virtually. So it's been a very, very, very long journey, and we hope to continue for much, much longer. This is the 536th session. Over 150,000 people have participated in these sessions. The event is being recorded. Every single roundtable recording is available on our 1M Roundtables channel. On Twitter, you can follow us at 1M by 1M and at Stromana. We publish a lot. And hashtag 1M1M is for today, if you're live tweeting. It is a roundtable, not a broadcast. So we do want you to participate as much as you can and wish to. So I will put up this slide later. You can also activate your audio, WebEx audio, and talk through that. But we'll get to that in a bit. We have some scheduled programming first. We'll get through that and then come to talking to you all. We are going to start today's session with a conversation with Rajeev Singh-Morales, founder and managing partner of Alma Mundi Ventures. Rajeev, welcome to the program.
Good morning from Seattle, and thank you.
Rajeev, your name is so interesting. It seems like there's a whole story in your name and in your firm's name. Do you want to start with a little bit of your background?
Sure. I could talk for a long time, but in brief, obviously, the name is half Indian, and the Molares is half Spanish. I'm truly a child of the world, born in Europe, raised here in the US and Europe, and have lived and worked in Asia, Europe, and the United States. And our firm was born in Europe, and we've invested in both Europe and the US, and we can talk a bit more about that. But yes, I'm a global citizen, which I think more and more of us in the entrepreneurial world are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about the charter and the investment thesis of Alma Mundi Ventures.
Right. So we are a fund that's just over $110 million in our core fund, and then we have a separate insurtech fund, which is about 90 million. So all told, about 200 million in capital. We focus on the Spanish diaspora, or as we say in the US, Hispanic entrepreneurs. We are mostly B2B, so we've done some B2C, but mostly B2B. We generally focus on Series A, and I know that the definition of Series A is an elastic definition depending on where you are, but late seed, early A, valuations that are between 5 and 40 million, and we initially put in investments of between 1 and 2, eventually going to 4 and 5 as we do follow-on rounds.
And so when you say Spanish diaspora, is it entrepreneurs with companies in the US but are of Spanish or Hispanic origin, or can they also be in other continents or countries?
Exactly right. Our first two funds, which are essentially closed now, but we are in the process of structuring a new fund, are for Spanish or Hispanic entrepreneurs based in Europe or based here in the US, and we have 8 companies here in the US. Our new fund may have a slightly broader mandate, but we're working on that right now.
So talk about the companies you've invested in. Give us a flavor of what they are and where did they come from? How did you encounter them? What did you see in them that led you to write that first check?
Right. So I think the way I would cut into that is, we have been fortunate, not unlike many communities, there are networks within networks, and so word of mouth becomes very important in terms of seeing deals. And I think that's one advice I would give to entrepreneurs. Don't only look for venture capitalists, but talk to other entrepreneurs and get them to talk about who they've worked with, what funds they've contacted, what funds they've spoken to. And that's one of the better ways, frankly, of reaching the right funds or the funds where there may be a better fit with your project. And that's how we found the most interesting deals, by word of mouth. Reaching out to companies once you've done some research, it's the yield on that, meaning the willingness to talk, is lower. So referrals is really important. What we generally have, as I say, focused is on B2B companies. Our expertise is more in that space, and I can talk about some of the challenges we see in scaling B2B companies, but we look for companies where we can help. I'd call ourselves activist investors, in the sense of we'd like to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We're not simply going to put money in and then wish you the best and give me a call if you need help. No, I'm going to be there to help you in a constructive, in a supportive, and in a positive way. But ultimately, you, the entrepreneur, are the one responsible for the firm. The venture capitalist can't do that, can't run the place for you. So it gives you, I hope, a little bit of a flavor of the kind, how we get to the companies, and we've been very fortunate of seeing thousands of companies literally over the last 5 years. And
talk about some of the companies themselves.
Yeah, so we just let me start with one that just was sold. We about 2 months ago, a firm that we invested in about 5.5 years ago in San Francisco, founded by an immigrant from Spain, called Returnly, just got sold to the buy now pay later company called Affirm, which is founded by Max Levchin, and it was sold for $300 million. The story from it started in 2013-14. We invested in 2015 in a convertible note, a small initial amount. What the company does is, as all of you know, e-commerce is booming now. Most people, unfortunately, buy stuff that they want to return. For merchants other than the big ones, in the US being Amazon and Walmart, the return process is a pain point. And so what this company does is essentially enable through software the return process. And when the company started, it was just software, and they had a hypothesis that credit at that point of return might be an interesting play. As time went on, it became the most important part of the business, and ultimately is the reason why it was bought by a firm. So it's the valuations when we went in were reasonably small, under 10 million, and it sold 5 years at 300 million. And so it was an extraordinarily interesting journey. It had its ups and downs, its moments of real challenge, like any company will have, and ultimately success, a good wealth creation for everybody, the entrepreneurs, the venture capitalists, everybody. So that's.
Rajeev, was the company founded in the U.S., in San Francisco, or was it started elsewhere and came to the U.S.?
No, it was founded here. Interestingly, the bulk of the technical team was based in Europe, and so we've seen a lot of companies that are started here, and the technical team is in Spain or in India or in other places where there is extraordinarily high quality talent that, with a lot of late nights, if you're in the US, can be managed, and it just gives a competitive edge in stretching the runway, if you will, on scaling the company. We've also worked with companies in Europe that have then come to the US as the business grows in the US.
So this is kind of an interesting dynamic that we see a lot of. especially in the context of Indian entrepreneurs using India as the development location and then coming to market here. Over the years, actually, a lot of these companies are getting started in India, and then if they're going for this global technology or global market kind of play, they want to move to the US, but they do the product development, do some validation, get the few early customers, and then come to the US with a ready product often. This is a dynamic we see a lot of in the Indian diaspora, in the Indian, in the India Silicon Valley bridge. This activity is very prevalent. I'm actually very happy to see that you are also focusing on this dynamic on Europe because, the Europe Silicon Valley bridge was less well built. The Israel Silicon Valley bridge was very well built. The India Silicon Valley bridge was very well built. And right now, it doesn't even matter. Silicon Valley doesn't matter as much. It's more like the US market if you're doing B2B, if you're trying to sell to B2B customers, the US market, especially in enterprise and mid-market, the US market is one of the most prized markets. So it's great to see that you're doing that in the Europe-US corridor.
Yeah, no, and I think your observation is entirely right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, whether it's Silicon Valley or Austin or Boston or New York, the US market and the buyers here are among the most sophisticated. And if you can sell here, I mean, as the song goes, you can sell anywhere. And, therein lies, I mean, one observation I would make about B2B and the entrepreneurs, understanding the buying process of corporates, whether those are mid-size or larger corporates, is really one of the coefficients of success that can't be underestimated. You may have the greatest software, you may have the greatest product, or the combination of product, service, but if you don't understand the dynamics of how the purchase decision is made, you're going to get stuck.
That's right. We spend a lot of time on that topic in our accelerator, is exactly how to set up a repeatable sales process and how to not sell not once or twice, but 100 times and 1,000 times. And what are the dynamics of where you're seeing the European teams? Is it all in Spain that you're working with, or are you seeing other geographies in Europe?
No, we're seeing, we have investments in the UK, we have a couple in Switzerland, and a little bit distributed across Europe, but mostly in Spain. I think the dynamics are roughly similar to what they are here in the US. The trends are the same. Perhaps they lag a little bit in terms of the innovation. Certainly on the financial side, the SPAC boom, for instance, is only now beginning to get to Europe. But in terms of what's interesting, what people are doing startups in, it's almost the same as in the US. And if you want, I can talk a little bit about what I see as the key trends. And
yes, that would be great. So it was one of my questions. What do you see? What trends do you see in your deal flow? What trends do you see? What trends inform your investment thesis?
Yeah, and I'm very happy to. I mean, as I said, we are a fund that's mostly B2B and also generalist. We don't have either an industry focus or a horizontal focus on a sub process, whether it's payments or whatever, marketing. We're quite broad, so we see a lot. And there are certain areas, for instance, pharma and biotech, which are extraordinarily hot right now. We don't invest in that, but we do invest in digital health, and I see that is one that is really quite interesting right now and accelerated since the pandemic. Everything around telehealth or kind of remote diagnostics and remote healthcare provision in the US and in Europe is gaining a lot of attention because of, we still have a debate as to how the shift that's occurred during the last year will remain afterwards, but it's clear that people are getting much more comfortable in getting healthcare services via digital platforms. And specifically, one of the things we're seeing in the US and in Europe is mental health, for instance, as a growing investment thesis, providing mental health services through these digital platforms. So there's a lot of activity. We've invested in a couple of platforms. One of them is in New York called Rubicon MD, founded by an immigrant, founded by minority founders, and now scaling really nicely with investments from some of the largest funds and healthcare players here in the United States. Very focused on the U.S., but providing specialist consults to general practitioners. So digital health is one. E-commerce is another one. As you know, in March and April of last year, when the pandemic hit, I think there was a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen. But of course, very quickly it became obvious that e-commerce was just perhaps slowed down a little bit and then just accelerated extraordinarily quickly. And so that secular trend, which was underway, just picked up speed. And I think anything associated with e-commerce continues to be very interesting. We don't focus on the front end, we focus on the back end. The Returnly story I mentioned is an example. There's a lot of focus as well on BNPL, the buy now, pay later phenomenon. And e-commerce in general is another one that we see. And then the last one I'll mention is ESG, which is this impact investing, and that's a broad term. And so there's green technologies, but there's also more broader kind of societal impact, and are you contributing back? So for instance, we've invested in one hardware company called Submer, which is essentially, these are what's called immersion cooling for the data center. The data centers are growing and they need more compute power than they ever did. The problem with data centers is that they generate an extraordinary amount of heat and they consume a lot of electricity. So they need to be cooled, which just consumes more electricity, et cetera. So is there a way to reduce their footprint, reduce their energy consumptions? One of the potential technologies is immersion cooling. Essentially, think of it as big boxes with liquid in which you stick the servers in, and the servers are cooled by liquid instead of big fans and requiring huge real estate. They're based in, this company is based in Europe and is selling largely to what's called a hyperscaler. So we generally like those kinds of companies. We've invested in one called Clarity AI, which does ESG scoring for funds. More and more investors care about that ESG component. And this company based in New York and Spain focuses on scoring funds and helping investors decide where they channel their money. So those are three specific. Another one that we also see, I mean, again, none of these are new. They're just continuing with momentum is business process automation. Some people, kind of RPA. What we like about this is, there's been a lot of talk about machine learning and AI and applications of that to the enterprise space and applications of that to industrial processes. We're still in the infant stages of that, but it is definitely picking up, and we like to invest selectively in that, in companies that have very practical experience in using machine learning and eventually using deep learning, AI, if you will, for improving these processes that are in the enterprise and in manufacturing settings.
So Rajeev, I'm going to go back to your discussion on digital health. It's also, we have exactly the same principle. We don't do biosciences, life sciences, or pharma, but we do digital health. Now, of course, digital health is a big field, and there are lots of sub-pockets in there. The telehealth phenomenon, as you point out, has been hugely accelerated globally, and I think in the Western world, one of the gating items with telehealth was that insurance companies were not really as proactive in paying for telehealth, and they are now. I think the insurance companies have altered their policies, and that has given telehealth a big boost. And in countries where healthcare systems are already immature, telehealth is an opportunity to leapfrog all that. So I think that a lot of that is happening. We see a lot of that happening in India. And I haven't really looked into telehealth in Latin America, but I imagine that's also coming up in Latin America. But when it comes to some of the patient monitoring stuff, which is a very active category, or applications of information technology, especially the AI algorithm kind of stuff, machine learning and so forth, in drug discovery. How do you view the role of the FDA or equivalent, regulatory body in Europe or elsewhere?
Yeah, good question, and I'll be very candid. I am not an expert on FDA and the equivalent in Europe. Having said that, we are working, for instance, with a company that has developed a technology for the diagnosis of sleep apnea, which is a condition that can be quite debilitating if you have it. And I'll give you a quick background here. In today's world, if you are told by your primary care physician that you might have sleep apnea, you need to go to a clinic and you need to get strapped up with a big mask and a big machine. So what these guys, out of Imperial College, a female professor named Esther Rodriguez, developed a little technology where you put a quarter-size plastic device on your neck, and while you sleep, it reads the breathing signals, downloads it on your phone, and in the morning you have your diagnosis. It's much more accurate than existing technologies, and you can well imagine much cheaper to implement because you don't need to go anywhere. You just put a little plastic thing with a sensor in there.
Wearable.
It's a wearable, exactly. But it will be approved.
Does it require regulatory approval?
Yes. It's not an invasive device, but it does, and we are going through the FDA approval process here in the United States. It's been approved in Europe by the regulators, and again, it's a non-invasive device, so the burden of proof is much lower than it would be if it were an implant or something that requires a more invasive device. I mean, the experience so far is, the FDA and the regulator in Europe are looking for innovative solutions. It's very clear that they have more and more experience, and you can directly see the correlation with, if they have some experience with these kinds of technologies, it's a much easier process. I helped one company that's working with exosomes, which is life sciences, which is still in the infant stage, but you can see that there are over 300 drugs in the pipeline at the FDA, and so it becomes easier. So I'm not suggesting that it's a very quick process, but I think that as we see more and more technologies, whether those are diagnostic or the core biopharma, the FDA, the regulators are learning, and therefore they're becoming more agile as well, is what I would say.
So I'm going to probe a little bit on this topic, something very specific. So in this company that you have invested in, it sounds like they have already got regulatory approval in Europe, so they are selling, and they're still waiting for regulatory approval in the US. What is, as an investor, how do you view regulatory risk? Did this company come to you with the regulatory approval in Europe? So if it delays in the US, it still doesn't hinder their selling and revenue generating in the Europe. How do you evaluate the regulatory risk issue?
Yeah, the time, exactly. I am not an expert on the regulatory, but what we saw in this company was a very novel technology that was underpinned by an incredibly qualified, academic. And so we had little doubt that, as we say in the US, what it said it does what it says on the box, meaning, the claims that it's patented would work technically. The question then would be just going through the process. Whereas, there's some technologies, whether they're wearable or invasive, where there's a hypothesis that it's going to do this, you have to prove that it does that, and then you have to prove it to the regulator through, a medical study. In our case, we were pretty sure the technology worked. All we needed to do was demonstrate it in a medical trial in the UK, which we did with patients, and the results turned out to be as we thought, or in fact better than we thought. So that doesn't mean that we will invest in any technology that requires FDA or European agency approvals. because it's a long process and there are many twists and turns and you do need some very specialized skills and knowledge, accumulated knowledge of that. So unless we see something where it's, I'll say it, we believe it's a no-brainer that the underlying technology works, we're generally not going to invest in. And in this case, it was a pretty unique opportunity for us to invest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there is for those of you who are listening to this conversation and are actually considering or working on digital health ventures that have need for some sort of an approval process, you're going to need to find investors who are comfortable taking that regulatory risk and have some skills and experience and expertise in handling those, because it is a reality in those kinds of monitoring systems or anything that is even a little bit intrusive or invasive. That is a reality, and it does require a certain kind of investor who has that expertise. Always I talk about investor-entrepreneur fit, right? Every investor comes to a fund with an investment thesis, and as an entrepreneur, your entrepreneurship thesis and the investor's investment thesis have to match up, otherwise there will be no funding. So keep that in mind as you are, looking for your investor for the round that you're financing. Okay, Rajeev, I think we're going to switch to the entrepreneur pitch section. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope we can do some work together in the near future.
Likewise, thank you. I'm happy to listen to the next section.
Great. So, folks, a little bit of expectation setting. These are the entrepreneurship pitch sections. Entrepreneur pitch section here is a safe working session, effectively. We do strategy discussions, and they're candid strategy discussions. I'm not here to give you a pat on the back. I'm here to have a real, authentic, intellectually honest conversation about your venture, so that I want to give you what I really see. So it's not sugar-coated. It is not a pat on the back. It is a real, authentic, constructive, actionable conversation. But if you disagree with my feedback, that's fine. You can do what you want with the feedback. It's your venture. Ultimately, you are going to make the decision. We are actually going to start not with Praveen, but we're going to start with Tarun. Do we have Tarun's slides, or are we Tarun just going to speak about it?
Yeah, hi. Of course, yeah, you do have my slides.
Maureen, I don't see slides. Do we have... I'll skip forward. Okay. I see. I thought it was being uploaded later. Sorry.
Actually, before I start, Rajeev, I have a question for you. Rajeev, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, hi. So a couple of things. One, I think many months ago, I remember reading an essay by Mr. Khosla, where he spoke about the role of AI. I'm sure you're aware of the paper. Either replacing the doctor or significantly, making the whole profession
He's been talking
irrelevant.
about that for years.
I'm sorry?
Khosla has been talking about that for years.
Yeah, so I just wanted to check with Rajeev. Are you, two questions. One, do you have any such companies who are working on these kind of healthcare technologies? That's question one. And two, if that ever were to come to pass, how would the regulatory framework change in that context? Or does it not change at all?
No, Tarun, I think you that's the biggest, the question is ultimately not only regulatory, but liability. A diagnostic based on machine learning algorithms. What is the potential liability question? Is it being worked on? Absolutely. In fact, I'm not sure that it's a secret, but Vinod's son is working on a company that does precisely that. And all of the companies that are in this space, including the one we've invested in, has on the roadmap, kind of automating as the number of diagnostics grow, you get repetitive insights, and so presumably you can you'll be able to get an initial diagnostic from a large data set that then has to be supplanted by a human element. The question is, will we ever get to a world where there are no humans? I doubt that, but you never know. You never know. But there's a series of not only regulatory, but I think more importantly, liability questions.
Which is again legal. So I think essentially law will play catch up.
Likely, yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, Tarun, let's hear about Adios. Tarun is a new member of the 1M1M Premium program. You just joined yesterday. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so the project is called Adios. We have two products, one for B2C and the other for B2B. Now, the reason we'll be able to do both of these efficiently, because the B2B product sits on the same foundation as the B2C product. And it is almost like an instance or an elaborate use case of the B2C product. So this presentation is like a high level 1 presentation. The details are available in the next presentation, which we are not doing today. Let's talk about Adios first, which is the B2C product. Here's the problem we will solve. One, distraction and restlessness have gone up significantly over the past few years, especially due to the growth in technology. People are spending much more time looking outward and very little time looking inward. That's the first problem. The second problem is many people do not have a very clear, defined, written down set of guidelines, personal guidelines that they refer to on a regular basis before making a personal or a professional decision. It could be a decision about entering or exiting a relationship, about parenting, about a startup, an AI engine, or a feature you're about to add to your product, any decision. That's the second thing. So when you add these two together, one, I'm distracted, restless, and I'm looking outside. And two, I don't have an internal reference point. These two taken together, what they mean is I only have an external reference point, which means then that I see this founder, famous founder, and I want to be like him, or I see this parent and I want to be like her, etc. This lack of internal clarity leads to making choices that are not right for me, which then leads to an agitated state of mind. So the problem that we are solving is an unclear mind. That's the problem we're solving. Now, the solution, how will we solve it? We'll solve it in a very systematic and algorithmic manner. Adios is a system, it's a method, it's a decision-making framework that trains you step by step to achieve 3 clearly defined objectives. Objective 1, achieve clarity of thought, which means you should be able to find an answer to the question, what should I do in this situation? Very clearly. That's the first objective, clarity of thought. The second objective is that clarity of thought should help you make such decisions that lead you to a more peaceful state of mind. That's the second objective. And the third objective is you should be able to do all of this independently on your own without relying on anyone else externally. How will we do this? We will do this in the following manner. 1, we will train our members to achieve a regular habit of contemplation. Contemplation is not meditation the way we understand today. It is deep thinking, thinking deeply about matters that matter. So you cut off from the external, sit on a chair, raise your head at a 30-degree angle, stare into blankness, and think deeply. Or you take a contemplation walk with a specific purpose of thinking deeply. So we will train them in the regular habit of contemplation. That's the first way we're going to change this. The second way, we will provide them with a set of guidelines that they can then use to construct their customized internal compass, which will guide them to make the right decisions. That's the second. The third is we will help them solve their real life situations using our decision-making tool called the Adios. Now, audioscope is like your personal microscope for life. Just like a biological microscope, you take an organism, put it under a biological microscope and analyze it. In an audioscope, you take a real life situation in your life, put it under the audioscope and analyze with the objective of finding an answer. They will solve real life situations using audioscope and find answers to questions such as, should I switch my job? Should I quit to start a startup? What should I do as a parent, or about a relationship, etc. Not just regular day-to-day questions, but also profound questions about life. So that's the third thing, audioscope. And they do this on their own. We don't tell them the answers. We are not counselors. We train them to find the answer. That's the third thing. And the fourth thing we will do is we will help them construct and maintain their personal vision plan, which will keep them focused and on track. Now, how Adios works today? Adios works as a 10-module program. In each module, I explain one Adios principle which relates to clarity of thought. Then I introduce one idea on which the participant contemplates for 10 minutes right there during the session. Then they spend 5 to 10 minutes looking at their vision planner. Then they take a situation from their real life, whether last week or a month ago, etc., and analyze that situation using Audioscope themselves. Then they review their past assignment and then at the end receive an assignment for the next few days. Now, this is a 10-module program. Between any two modules, they listen to brief 2-minute bedtime review audios, typically in the night or sometimes in the morning, that help them refresh and build these principles that we discussed. Then they contemplate regularly for 30 to 60 minutes in the following days and use Audioscope and their vision plan. So the process is well-defined and repetitive because clarity of thought and peace of mind are skills, just like learning to ride a bicycle or playing the piano. We learn skills by repetition. So throughout the program, they work only on these elements. Contemplate, listen to the bedtime reviews, look at your vision planner, solve your situations using Audioscope, repeat. That's the system. Now, what is the result of all this? What do you achieve after going through the program? Let me take you through a typical user journey. After the first two modules, you are thinking, okay, I think this contemplation activity can help me think clearly, so it is worth a try. I think I can feel some difference, but it is too early to say. After 5 modules, you have tasted some clarity. You have either gained an insight or some answer to a simple question in your life. After 8 modules, you're convinced that now you have a system that can help you find your answers. You have started making a few changes in your lifestyle and you're able to experience the difference. You now do not want to go back to your earlier system. Now, for a founder, you have actually probably found a method you can use to literally engineer, construct, or manufacture innovation by design, by using this new technology called contemplation, because contemplation is a technology. You have learned it, you have applied it, you have found answers relating to, say, your go-to-market strategy or your product market fit. And now you have a system to bring about innovation by planning it consciously. Because if you look at innovation, it doesn't happen by merely listening to, say, an audio or attending a workshop. Because unless you provide the right operating system for all that information to cook together, unless your disparate groups of neurons get a chance to connect with each other, which then produces insight, that's the biology behind it. You cannot produce innovation. So contemplation is the foundation of innovation.
In the interest of time, you will have lots more time in the private roundtables because you're a premium member. I I want to ask you one simple question. So I happen to believe that clarity is the highest form of human intelligence. So kudos to you for trying to take humanity on the path to greater clarity. However, people are not looking for a tool to increase clarity of thought. Or are they? How are people going to find that such a product or app or whatever form factor you're going to go to market in exists? What is the go-to-market path? Are people searching for this? What is the way that you're going to acquire customers?
So shall we skip to the go-to-market slides?
Yeah. You want to talk here?
Yeah,
Customer acquisition, right?
Yeah. The earlier one, I think. The one before this? Yeah. So for go-to-market, we have a few options. We want to bootstrap using B2B employee mental health revenue to build B2C. But there are other sources as well, which we can discuss with you later on. But primarily, the thing to note here is that most employee mental health offerings currently are either providing short-term solutions or purely music and entertainment. Now, because as I explained earlier, you're distracted, you do not have internal guidelines, and an internal reference point is missing, you look outside, you make choices based on what others are doing, which leads to unhealthy choices and an agitated mind. Most people are not unwell.
I got it. I got that.
Unclear.
What conversations have you had with buyers of employee mental health solutions? Have you done any validation?
None on this. This is where we are probably looking for your help. What we have done is B2C, individual people. We have trained a few. We have had long conversations with them. We have seen change happen. Significant change, important change happen in their lives. That's what gives us the confidence of the program.
Okay. All right. In that case, first let me ask Rajeev to weigh in of what your thoughts or questions are, and then I'll give you some pointers of what to do next.
Sriman, thank you. Look, I think you're on to, this is a real issue, certainly in the US and in Europe. So I think you have something here and you are solving everywhere. You are solving a problem. So that's the good part. I think that what we just talked about is fundamental. There are a lot of people working on this issue and they use different language, but at the end of the day, they're all going after the same thing, which is to try to help individuals either through their companies, and it's very crowded there. As I said, our company is beginning to get into that space. So I think you need to tighten, you haven't gone through your 10 module, but I think you need to tighten what it is about your approach that's unique, that's special, that's different. So that's one observation I'll make. And then the second one is just to pick up on this point, which is you very quickly need to experiment and figure out where you're going to go to market initially, because you could get caught on a rock in the water and kind of the boat will sink if you go into the wrong niche. It's very crowded already in the US. And I saw your slide very quickly with some names. There are a lot of other names that you don't yet see, but they're working actively on propositions. So it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. On the contrary, I think it's a very good idea, but I think you need to sharpen a little bit what's special about your approach and why it's going to have greater impact on the lives it touches. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so can I answer that?
Go ahead.
If you could flip back, please, if you don't mind, on competitor analysis, just a few slides back. Now, our unfair advantage, let me start with that. Our unfair advantage is one, this program that I'm talking about. This comes out of my personal experience and practice of more than 10 years. So this isn't coming out of a market opportunity. This comes out of what works, what has worked. And it has been in the making for a very long time. And that is why if you look at most solutions today, this is how we stack up. We are focused on maybe the one before this, Shamna. Yeah. So we are focused on long-term impact of the members as against short-term impact on their mental health. Okay, that's the first thing. And the next thing that we are working on is independence. Independence of the member to be able to gain that confidence that you can find your answers. That's our focus. Okay, now low dependence does not mean low engagement with Adios. There are two different things here. They will continue to engage on an annual basis as an alumni because they have an environment which keeps the momentum. They engage not because they are dependent. We are not counselors, and we never will be. We will never be a platform where you will find 100 counselors. That is not the approach. The approach is you have a counselor inside of you. You are not looking because you are too busy looking on the outside. And we have a system for it. Okay.
So,
this is a training mechanism.
Tarun, if I may, I think what you are trying to do here, what Calm and Headspace and these meditation tools are doing, apps, is basically stepping you through guided meditation practices and stuff like that. Yours is not a guided meditation practice.
Not at all.
I think there's a big difference.
It's a training
between
program.
meditation and what you're trying to train the mind in how to think in a way.
Yeah, and very systematically and practically.
Thinking habits.
Practically. Taking real life situations that you solve, as I said. Because essentially peace of mind is what you're looking for. But it is, it doesn't happen by listening to guided meditations only.
Yeah, no, I like it very much. I think what your approach is interesting and all of that is interesting. The question really is, it's a very tough go-to-market strategy. So we have to find a path to get into market and validate this. So, so Tarun, here are the things that you need to do as soon as possible, which is go into the curriculum. You have now access to the curriculum. And go study the validation module, go study the positioning module, go study the customer acquisition module where I talk about B2B repeatable sales process, the sales 2.0 module and all that, and develop the pedagogical basis. So for what you're trying to do in a generic sense, we have already done in the context of early stage startups. So I want you to be able to think using that framework. So go study that, develop that framework and that methodology basis, and then come back to the private roundtables often so that we can iterate and come up with the go-to-market strategy.
All right.
All right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have, you're very welcome. We have Praveen next. Just a second. I'll go back to Praveen's slides. Praveen, you are on.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Great, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Sramana and Maureen, to give this opportunity for me to pitch. Thank you, appreciate it. So I'll start with a simple story of mine, and that's how the startup has originated, right? So I live in a small town in Seattle Metro where there are like around 15,000 to 20,000 population, and there are only few restaurants here. So every time there's a very popular Indian restaurant, a small hole-in-the-wall kind of a restaurant, we used to go quite often to that place. And first year they started, they were pretty good, and the food was really amazing. The quality is very good. And the second year, third year, they got so popular that which is like a mile away from my place, walkable distance. I couldn't go there and reserve a table, and I had to wait for an hour, 2, 3. Sometimes there's no space in that lunch or dinner period. So I've seen that happening a lot of times, and I was like, okay, this is too much. And then I started out and pick up. So my go-to was do just pick up, even though it's walkable distance for me. I was just doing pick up and pick up and pick up. But the pickup, so then at one point, they moved, the owners of that restaurant moved right by to my place. He was my neighbor. And then I was talking to him, dude, what's going on? I'm your neighbor. Can you put me into that reservation, a table reserved for me, right? So he said, hey, first come, first serve. And we talked about, hey, what's the problem? I told him, hey, this is my problem. And he told him, hey, this is my problem. I asked, okay, what is your problem, right? He told me, hey, all the pickups and all the deliveries that they are getting, this is all pre-pandemic. All the deliveries that they are getting. Hello, can you hear me?
What did you say? All the deliveries and pickups they're getting are what?
Oh, these are all pre-pandemic. So pre-pandemic, the story is all pre-pandemic. So
pre-pandemic, okay.
Yeah, so what happened is like, hey, all these deliveries and pickups are impacting his restaurant, his customers in store on the table. He's not able to churn the tables so fast, and he's kind of losing money in one way. Pickup through DoorDash or Uber Eats, they charge you 15%. And to delivery, they charge you like 20-25%. So he's not making any money on the pickups and delivery. But also at the same time, because of that, he's losing customers and on the table, meaning he's not able to churn the tables. For example, if he was able to churn the table 100 tables, 100 times on the table in a day, now he's only doing 70 or 60 because of the delays in the kitchen, right? So 30-minute time on a table it became 45-minute and 60 minutes. So the money that they make is on the table and that they are losing it. So that's when this idea clicked on, and then say, hey, let me take that offshore. Let me take your pickup. Let me take your delivery offshore and see how it goes, right? So that's when the whole FaveKitchens idea picked up, and we took that idea from there, and he became my team member, the owner of that restaurant. He has now multiple restaurants in Seattle, and doing really well. They're listed top 10 restaurants in Seattle. So we kind of picked that idea up. Hey, let's take it out, take offshore all of your delivery and pickup, and that's what. And the pandemic hit, right? So it became much more important for them. So everything became pickup and delivery. So it accelerated by 10 times. So what we did is like we talked to many restaurants like that, many owners like that, and we figured, hey, this is where the problem is. The problem is like suddenly the deliveries went up, and they don't have digital presence at all, right? So I'm talking about family-owned independent restaurants. So they don't have digital presence, they don't have delivery, they don't know how to manage. They have to completely pivot into a new system. So at the same time, they have so much demand, and throughout the city, people are coming from different locations. So we decided, hey, the problems are too much to handle by one individual or from one business owner. So we talked to many people, and there's another problem of delivery aggregators like DoorDash and Uber Eats. They kind of start charging them 25%, even with no sit down and dine. That kind of made them just survive through the pandemic. And also at the same time, they were in a situation where they were doing well during the pandemic, but they want to expand into new locations. They couldn't do anything. So that's when our solution comes. Like the solution is, hey, let's do one thing. Pick all these family-owned restaurants who have really good cult following, pick them up, and distribute them into different locations. So their load goes down and their efficiency goes up, and we give the platform for them to expand. And without it's
so
like
you are a delivery service. You're offering a delivery service.
It's just not delivery service. We offer everything else except cooking. That's it. So that means we offer, the solution is to put all these guys together under one roof, provide individual kitchens and provide the technology, provide the delivery logistics, provide the ordering system, and at the same time marketing too. So that's
so you're putting a bunch of restaurants that have good followings in one kitchen, and you're managing all their IT activities,
right,
vis-a-vis order and delivery, and also the logistics of delivery, and they do the cooking. So does that mean that they're switching off all their in-person dining?
Not in their existing locations. Now I made them expanding to two different, one location. They were in a east side of Seattle, that now went into downtown Seattle, and now we are moving them into another west side of Seattle. So we are kind of distributing, expanding their presence and expanding the customer base. That way they are able to make more, reach more customers. Right now their customer, all these family-owned restaurant customer reach went up of 5x just by tying up with us, and without them investing on any real estate, on any technology or any of the business operations. It's like the product is theirs, but we are doing the business operations. If you put it in an analogy, it's like an Amazon. So Amazon, you own the product, but Amazon is going to do the operations. So that's what we do. We do provide an ordering system.
What is the business model?
What is it?
What is the business model?
So yeah, the business model is put everybody together, expand, distribute.
No. How do you make money?
So the revenue model. Revenue model is by commission. So we charge them commission on every sale.
So how many restaurants are you doing this for right now?
Yeah, there are 6 restaurants.
6 restaurants. And
so
what is the average revenue, or how do you measure?
So right now we have a $1.1 million in one past year, and we just we kicked off because of pandemic. We kind of pre-launched ourselves, but our actual location kicked off 6 months ago, and we in a year in total we did 1.1 million gross revenue.
1.1 million top line, or 1.1 million in commissions?
At top line GMV.
And what is the commission?
Commission is 40% of that.
40% of that is commission.
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. And that still keeps the restaurant viable?
Yes, because they don't have to do anything. All the costs that they have to bear is the ingredients, cost of goods, and the employee. So all they need is 1 or 2 employee who cooks. That's it.
So for you, there is real estate in that 40%
yes.
margin.
At scale.
You have to pay for real estate, you have to pay for the people to do the delivery services, and you have to pay for the IT infrastructure. Those are your 3 main cost items, yeah?
Yes, we are all about efficiency, and we figured out we can make money on top. Right? And we were at one point we were net positive.
Go ahead, Rajeev, if you need to take off. I know you have had a half an hour.
Apologize. Thank you.
Cut off.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye. So,
thank you, Rajeev.
Praveen, if you
yes.
If you look at your unit economics, or however you are looking at profitability, what kind of margin can you make? The IT part has economies of scale. It gets amortized over time and across
right.
a larger number of customers. But when it comes to the delivery service and the real estate, there's a finite amount of scalability there. So what margin business is this? And then you have to also market and sell. That's also expensive. So what margin business do you think you're building?
So there's a lot of money in efficiency here. So the efficiency, when you talk about 40%, right? So how much are we getting out of it? So most of the cost that we are taking, it's all fixed cost. Most of it is fixed. So we know how the number of restaurants, as we add more restaurants, the more the money that you make, because the fixed cost is always fixed. So there's and we saw that. If you look at it, if you right now, even if any restaurant comes in and makes if you build like 10 restaurants in one location, 2 very good cult following restaurants are enough to make it operationally zero. Meaning, if you have 2 good and 6 average, 2 very bad, we're still profitable in that case, because it's all comes down to, if you look at the solution, there's the front of the house cost, the back of the house cost, and the delivery cost goes down by 50% with the current standards. And also the cost that the employees that we have maintaining is like literally 20% of what they are paying right there. So at the end of the day, it comes down to 15% when you have 10 restaurants together working. That's the gross margin.
Interesting. So I'm going to go to your questions, but I also want to point you to a piece that I wrote. Maureen, could you share the restaurant idea from the post-COVID startup ideas series, please, in the public chat? So Praveen, you should take a look at this piece. I don't know if you've seen it already, but it may be helpful for you to think about it, because it's kind of phrases it in a mode of repeatability. It's kind of the customers become subscription customers as opposed to transactional customers, and it gives you much greater leverage on an ongoing basis if you can create these kinds of clusters. So have a look at this and see if you can implement this, because the economics of this are more powerful.
Definitely. I mean, like you said, subscription is our vision. So we have a tech product too, right? The tech product, what it does, we are building a subscription model into it. But right now, as of today, it's not there, but it's on our roadmap. By end of this year, we have a subscription up and running too. So for consumer side, our focus is restaurants. We want to help them expand. That's what we do, distribute. There's, like you said, there's a scalability issues, which is the location, like the physical location that we need to give them. That is still an issue, and there are ways that we are kind of expanding with tying up with the owners, building owners. So, but at the same time, the cost is also high on that side, capital cost. But we have a tech by itself. That tech can be scaled like without the capital cost. The tech, what we are doing is like hyper local. We call as FaveKitchens. What it does is hyper local neighborhood platform. Means if you live in a location like me and 20,000 population, there are 2 places where you go to for restaurants. Literally 2 places for all 20,000 people. Our tech can go on top of those restaurants, meaning a platform for 20,000 people, where you can mix and match from those restaurants. Meaning you can pick from one Indian, one pick from Italian, pick from pizza in one single order, and there will be a co-op delivery system in that neighborhood, where restaurants get their own customer data, and they have their own delivery management system. Meaning 10 restaurants together have 2 or 3 drivers. That's it. Period. So they can share the drivers. So that kind of cuts down the cost by 50 to 60% from what they are doing now. So they can still own end-to-end customer data and the customer experience with the same time. They own the delivery management too. So that's our tech.
Praveen, what brings you here today?
What is it?
What brings you here today?
Oh, yeah, good question. One of my friend, he follows you a lot, and he's like, you are more into bootstrapping, right? So that's what my friend always told me about you. Hey, there's this person who does really good, who teaches you how to bootstrap and how to do it yourself. And that person, I think he follows you a lot, and he sent me your information. And I was like, okay, I was interested to talk to you, first of all. And then, there's an opportunity to even pitch, right?
The good news that I like about what you presented is that you have already done business, you know? So in that sense, you have bootstrapped very nicely. But the question that I haven't yet figured out, and I saw that you have slides on fundraising and so forth. So we not only bootstrap our companies, we also raise money for the companies. We have a large network of over 500 investors who work with us and look at our deals and invest in our companies. So I will be happy to, if that's your objective is to raise money, I would be happy to help you both bootstrap further and also raise money. The question that is on my mind is exactly how to frame this as a fundable business. And that I haven't figured out yet. You know, I haven't gone deep enough into your slides or your pitch to be able to fully assess that. I do think there is a business here, which I wrote about, and I want you to read what I wrote about and see how that, you know, impacts your thinking. And if you hang on for a second, I will explain how to use 1 million by 1 million, and then we can go back to further Q&A.
Sure, definitely,
So folks, my one request to all of you is that if you are following 1 million by 1 million, and if you like what we do here, please refer 1M by 1M to other entrepreneurs in your friends and family and colleagues, because we are always looking for serious entrepreneurs trying to build serious companies. All the resources are at 1mby1m.com. So everything is online, everything is virtual. You can access us from anywhere in the world. There's a terrific blog on the website that a lot of people are learning from. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series is a case study-based series of books, 12 to 16 case studies each, and there are 12 volumes. You can learn from there as well. These roundtables happen every week. We've done over 500 of them, and over 150,000 people have participated. Our full acceleration program is 1M by 1M Premium, and that's where you get extensive methodology guidance. We have a digital curriculum that you can access to learn the methodology elements. We have methodology elements for all the important pieces of building a startup at the early stages. We help you with business development where we have contacts, we connect you. You basically, by joining the program, you plug into our Rolodex. It's one of the most powerful Rolodexes in the industry. We use this format of WebEx-based roundtables for our, whatever you call it, mentoring, coaching, strategy, consulting. It's basically all the strategy discussions happen over these kinds of calls, and we have these as private roundtables for our premium members. And then we help you with financing. We work with you to get you prepared, and then we make the introductions to investors. That's how we do, funding. We actually have a Seattle company that we just funded. It's closing up around.
Nice.
And then we also have a lot of clout in the media, so we can get the word out about what you're doing out there. The self-assessment on our website is where you will find a lot of the due diligence questions that we see investors using. The bootstrapping course on the blog, you'll see it's pinned to the top. It's a free course. It gives you our philosophy of how 1 million by 1 million operates. It's 1 hour free course. We also have very reasonably priced Udemy courses that were just released. As of now, we have 23 courses out there, and these are, $40 courses, and there are 23 of them. If you keep an eye out for when Udemy is running promotions, which they do pretty often, you can acquire these courses for 10 to 12 bucks each, and they are, 3, 4, 5, 6-hour courses. There is an AI course that is a little bit more expensive, but again, it's deeply discounted often by Udemy. So that's a longer course, more like 8, 9 hours. But these are short blocks. What we've started to do essentially is take the 1M by 1M methodology and curriculum. We have thousands of hours of curriculum that we have now brought out as Udemy courses, and we will keep doing this. We will release, 4 to 6 courses a month so that we, further democratize entrepreneurship incubation education acceleration around the world. So that's the Udemy initiative that's going on right now. And we have a bunch of interns working on this project right now and that have just come on board in the last few days. So welcome. If you are one of the new interns, welcome to you. And I would be very happy to talk to you today. We still have a bit of time left. So that's that. And then if you're getting stuck, by the way, there are two things that you may want to consider. One is, as you're going through the self-assessment, if you're getting stuck, you may need to access the curriculum to learn the issues that you're getting stuck on. So 1M by 1M Basic is our full curriculum. That is like all thousands of hours of curriculum is available as 1M by 1M Basic at $99 a month. That's all you can eat. So you can do Udemy, little bits and pieces, or you can do 1M by 1M Basic straight away. That's $99 a month. Whatever suits you is fine. We're just offering you more and more options for learning. So go to the website, go dig around, look at the different options, basic, premium, Udemy, etc. Look at the FAQs, video FAQs. Look at the curriculum description and how the curriculum is structured. It is a case study-based curriculum. You get to ride on other people's backs, shoulders. People have done it before, and we have great case studies. We have over 1,000 successful entrepreneur case studies, and that's how we teach. We teach on the basis of the learnings of the community. And we have the who's who of the industry, whether it's investors or entrepreneurs. We have the who's who of the industry helping us teach this course. Investor introductions of policies are all described in detail on the website as well. It's pinned to the top. Actually, there's a navigation button right at the top, so please go through the policies. As I said earlier, investor-entrepreneur fit is a really important element that you have to learn. So you have to learn how investors think to make a round come together. Our philosophy is lean, capital efficient, bootstrap startups, and our philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later. So we want you to validate, we want you to get further before we take you to investors, because your chances of success, probability of success is so much higher of raising money. That's it. We have 5 roundtables in July, so you can come to any of them and pitch. You can pitch once for free. If you want to keep talking to me and keep working with me, just join the premium program and I will be delighted to work with you and help you, make progress, basically accelerate your journey. That is why we do this program. It is a safe program. We are on your side. We are squarely on the side of the entrepreneurs. So you just get an ally to work with you. That's it. Questions. You can ask questions by calling in. You can ask questions if you're already dialed in. You can ask questions by activating your computer audio. All of those are fine options. And let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the program and if you're trying to figure out if it's a good fit for you or not, call Irina. She'll be happy to talk to you. All right. Questions, folks? You can type in your questions in the chat as well. Interns, feel free to ask questions. By the way, what you are working on, this Udemy program that you're working on, is part of the vision of further and further democratizing the entrepreneurship education and acceleration opportunity. So I have taught, many MBA classes. MBA classes invite guest speakers all the time. And they also try to teach with case studies and guest lectures and interviews and so on, which is what we have simulated in 1 million by 1 million at scale. I mean, we literally have the who's who of the industry speaking with you. We have hundreds of unicorn companies, entrepreneurs who have built these massive companies, and you get to see how they started, how they put one foot before the other before they were able to get to these scale metrics. So the methodology works. It's a proven methodology, and we want you to use it all over the world. Prav is asking, I would like to know more about valuation that angels seek during seed stage funding. It varies. Angel investors are trying to obviously invest in companies at a reasonable valuation. These days, the common practice is either convertible note or safe notes. So the round is not really priced. When angels are coming in, or pre-seed funds, or micro VCs, even seeds, are coming in with sub 1 million or 1 million kind of range funding, they are not pricing the round. They're basically doing a safe or a convertible note. So valuation is kind of not a moot point. There's a ceiling to the valuation in which they basically convert to equity at the valuation of the next round. There's a cap on what that valuation can be, but generally angels are not pricing rounds. Does that answer your question, Prav? Anybody else? Praveen, do you have any other questions?
Yes, I do. So
go ahead.
The situation where we are in is we are looking for a price round. So what are the things that we need to do, or what kind of investors that we need to look for a price round?
If you're looking for a price round, and I think given where you are, you may be able to get to a price round because you have revenues, you have already proven a proven thesis and everything. So you could go to a price round and you could raise a higher amount of money. There's a whole checklist of things that need to be in place. So I'd have to go through your full pitch and give you kind of point by point feedback on what needs further work. But just based on this conversation and the fact that you have executed up to a point of validation, I think you should be able to get to a price round. It's a matter of how you see. The thing that you are pitching right now is you have a working business. Does this business scale at velocity? That is the point you're going to have to make. Investors are trying to go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. You have to create a pitch and be able to convince your investors, prospective investors, that you can deliver on that agenda. And that's something that we can help you structure, something that will be convincing to investors. So go ahead and decide if you want to work with us. We'll work with you and get you there. I think it's doable, especially if you look at the thinking that I did in the context of COVID was, people don't like to cook. Most people don't like to cook. We love to cook, but most people don't like to cook. But they want to eat variety. And so I kind of created a subscription-based business model that is, So take a look and see if that's what you like. Or we can look at your business. We can evaluate it from a fundability standpoint and see if you're ready to be introduced to investors. If you are, I'll introduce you to investors. If not, then we may need to tweak some strategic elements, and we'll do that too.
Sure. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anybody else? All right, looks like we're done. So I will look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.